Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged football. Guilty as Charged football. Hello. Can you tell that we're a little bit out of routine, a little bit out of practice? But my name is Steven, host of the Guilty as Charged podcast. Joining me, as always, is my guy Tyler, coming off a vacation, coming off of a birthday fiesta, if you will. Tyler, how's it going, man? How was your trip?
Doing well. Trip was amazing. Felt awesome to turn 30 on the East Coast and go back to like my mom's roots, my family's roots over there. But we're both back right on time. I think you rolled in 2 hours ago. I rolled in 2 hours ago from a plane. Football's back. I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, football is back. The Chargers play an actual football game tomorrow. We'll see about maybe like a quarter-ish of like real players playing in this game. It sounds like both the Lions and the Chargers are planning on playing some of their younger guys and things like that. So should be fun. Of course, we will watch all 4 quarters regardless because we are sickos and we miss football. So yeah, it's a good time. Obviously, both of us are back from vacation. It was definitely a fun weekend, you know, getting out to Chargers training camp, and appreciate everybody for saying hello. And you know, got to do 2 videos from our beach house down in Newport, and that was definitely unexpected, but a good place to do a little, you know, about 45 minutes of solo videos.
Yeah, and the Zion one for sure really popped.
Yeah,
I kind of like my neck snapped reading the title of Zion Johnson potentially quietly benched. And we'll talk about that a bit more in a bit, but that was like a whoa, what's going on here? A lot of storylines tomorrow, that's for sure.
Yeah, when you're on vacation and you're missing all of the stuff, it can stack up for sure. So we like I had gotten some rumblings that the Rashawn Slater extension was going to be happening. And I was like checking my phone each day, and I'm like, okay, like this is gonna be like one of those like stereotypical things. Like I'm gonna get outside to the beach and I'm gonna set all my stuff down, and then the extension is gonna happen. And then sure enough, like 10 minutes after I sat down, I put on sunscreen, I got my book out, you know, got everything ready to go. And then Brooke is like, hey, you should check your phone. And I was like, wait, why? So because she had gotten an Instagram notification that from the Chargers Instagram social media page that the extension had become official. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. At least you didn't get a notification from Dove and ML Football and everyone trying to run the divorce story as a part of engagement bullshit that's been happening.
Yeah, unfortunate that is being discussed. It really sucks that you know, his ex-wife had to actually like come out and address it. So yeah. Okay, we'll get to some actual football stuff. Of course, before we begin, I have to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks, the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. You can officially use Prize Picks on a football game tomorrow for the Chargers, which is great. Obviously, we have like no real idea of what kind of workload these Chargers players are going to get. I feel like the Keandre Lambert-Smith, more or less, if that's up, I can't even remember actually now that I say that, but there is one. Okay, good. I feel like that one's pretty safe. I don't know if I would go to choose Omarion Hampton or Tre Harris just because like I have no idea how much they're actually going to play. But obviously, you know, we're excited that football is back on Prize Picks. The best way to do that. Baseball season is obviously in full swing as well. So if you guys want to support our show and support yourselves, you can download the app today on whatever app store you use. Use the code GUILTY at checkout to get a $50 instant deposit after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code GUILTY at checkout to get a $50 instant deposit after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Yeah, I've got the Trey Lance on more than 118.5 passing yards, Hampton more than 15.5 rushing yards, Vidal more than 20.5 rushing yards, and Hendon Hooker less than 99.5 passing yards. I'm totally pro Homer Chargers right now, and let's pray that Trey Lance can get a couple off to Keandre Lambert-Smith.
Yeah, Vidal feels safe, 20.5. I feel like he's going to touch the football a lot. Hampton, like, that could be one run for him, but I just don't know really, like, how much he's actually going to play. So, we'll see what happens there. Speaking of said Hall of Fame game, we'll kind of jump around through some training camp news and notes of the last few days, but obviously the bulk of today's show is going to be talking about things we want to see tomorrow, who's playing tomorrow. And you mentioned briefly the Zion Johnson conversation. You and I have not had a chance to connect about all of this officially on the show. We've obviously messaged back and forth about it. But if you are just catching up on the Zion Johnson conversation here, he was able to have his first padded practice on Saturday at center. And then, Greg Roman had come out and said that maybe they were considering mixing things up. There were some snap issues on Saturday. And so Monday comes around. I'm at practice. I see Zion Johnson without a right-handed glove. I'm like, okay, he's going to play center today. He's doing all of the warm-ups and things like that. Center. Bradley Bozeman is playing guard. And then team drills come out, and Bradley Bozeman is starting center, and then Jamari Sawyer is next to him at left guard. Zion Johnson is working with the twos. And then yesterday's practice, he was working with the first team offense at left guard, and then second team offense at center. Jim Harbaugh comes out and says that traditional veteran starters are not going to play tomorrow, but Zion Johnson is playing tomorrow. He's one of probably a small handful of veterans that are actually going to play in this game. And I can kind of understand that, but there's a lot of moving pieces here with the Zion Johnson conversation. What do you make of the former first-round pick, former guilty as charged favorite, Zion Johnson, potentially being benched, playing in the Hall of Fame game? There's a lot of stuff here to unpack, but what are your thoughts here?
Everything leading up until that recent development, and then everything after, including him starting in the Hall of Fame game at center, made sense. They were doing it back and forth. You're the center, you're the guard. You're the center, you're the guard. Okay, fine. It's a competition, I guess. Again, the loser still gets to start at a different spot, whatever. And then, because the days just fell a certain way, he wasn't getting many padded practices at center. So will he have to play in the preseason? Yeah, it seemed like it was trending that way. And that's fine. If you really want to make a determination, you have to see him play the Detroit Lions and guys that are trying to win their own jobs, right? And try to make their own roster spots. So I get that. But the weird benching all of a sudden and the mixed messaging has been so weird. So him, that one day, just not even being with the starting unit was so strange. And then, of course, you hear different things, and Greg Roman or whoever talks about how there's, yes, Andre James has elevated himself into the mix, and Jamari Sawyer's lost all this weight, and he looks fantastic. He could maybe working at guard, and he was playing starting guard. Whoa, are we getting a competition all of a sudden? But then Jim Harbaugh pretty much just reinforces that. No. They're doing great and all, but I still envision these two guys are our starters in some capacity as it was. So I guess has anything really changed? I don't know. But that one speed bump was just so odd. I know that with interior defensive line, about halfway through camp, when you have padded practices, they like to switch up guys. So you get to see some of the back end roster guys play the early guys. You're trying to see these guys in training camp, but that's not really what you're doing with the offensive line. That really does not happen.
No.
So in trying to look for any kind of rationale for that, I can't really find any. So I'm very curious what this all means for Zion. But ultimately, I just think this whole interior situation outside of Mekhi Becton is just extremely frustrating. To me, it just reeks of an organization that just went, whoops, I think we kind of messed this one up. And they'll dress it up as, Bozeman's our captain, Zion's super athletic. We're going to get these different mixes and matches, and it's all going to be great. The last time I saw these guys was the Houston game, and we saw the entire season, which wasn't really that great for these guys at minimum, just in terms of pass protection. And I really just feel like they messed up. They didn't realize the overpay for certain guards or interior guys were going to happen in free agency. It was a bad free agent class as is. It wasn't a great interior class as is, but they didn't overinvest. I guess I don't mind that Joe Hortiz didn't overspend or reach in the draft for a player, but they also just came away with nothing. And so now I just feel like this just all just reeks of we're going to window dress this and play it up as something. And ultimately it really just feels like oversight to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the the comments about Sawyer and James and how they factored into this, and I should have brought those up to start off as well. But Greg Roman comes out and says that, oh, these guys are in it, and then I'm there on Monday and I see this Zion Johnson switch, and that also means that Andre James is the center with the third team offense. And so the practice right after Greg Roman says Andre James is in the mix to start, he's a third team center because of this whole like competition thing that they're trying to work out. In a vacuum, I understand getting Zion Johnson more center reps because the way that they had their like alternating day rotation, it was just never really going to work out. If you want Zion Johnson to have a real chance of potentially winning the center competition, he needs more reps, and he was getting all of his reps without pads. So I understand that. I can kind of understand him playing in this Hall of Fame game to get him more reps. The messaging is frustrating, and the messaging of everywhere else we have competitors welcome. You know, everywhere else we're letting guys like Benjamin St. Juste potentially start for our team. We're letting DeLavon Campbell work in the first team offense as an undrafted free agent wide receiver. Nico Reed, you know, undrafted free agent corner. We're letting him work with the first team defense. And at center and left guard, it's like, well, these other guys are doing great, but we're gonna pump the brakes, and it's gonna be Zion and Bozeman in some capacity. That part to me is frustrating after everything else that is happening. And you and I have talked a lot about our frustrations with the interior, but now that they have gotten eyes on potential replacements and acknowledge that they are doing the right thing and they are competing and they are earning snaps, and then Jim Harbaugh says, no, like that's cool and all, but like we're good with Zion and Bradley Bozeman. So it's frustrating. I expected from day one that we would end up in the same spot as last year with Bozeman at center and Zion Johnson at left guard. You know, I just wish that the team that preaches all of these things and does it at mostly every other spot would actually like practice what they're preaching. And at least I'm not even asking for Andre James to get into the full rotation at center. Like at least let me see him get first team snaps like occasionally. Like you had 6 practices last week. Andre James going to get 1 day of first team offensive reps. Like just give me one and just like see what happens. And unfortunately, that's just not even happening either.
Yeah, really frustrating. So we'll see. We've had some version of this conversation for it feels like 12 months.
It's not going away.
And it hasn't gone away. And I know sometimes it gets frustrating for fans, but as you said, we were hoping for the competitors welcome to be here at all. And it just really isn't. And this is, you know, because we've been having this conversation for so long, you look back at last year where they're like, all right, it's been 2 days. Trey Pipkins is our starter. We go, are you sure you don't want to just compete with Jamari Sawyer there, who I honestly felt like better at that time because it was like, wow, here we go. Harbaugh, interior. It's going to be the best version of Sawyer, gap scheme, Roman, you name it. And they didn't even compete there. So I was just kind of hoping heading into this year with all, you know, okay, maybe like year 2, let's reevaluate. And they have reevaluated some of these players, but it's just, I don't know. Shuffling chairs on the deck of the Titanic is kind of what it feels like right now.
Yeah. Regarding the interior offensive line, I will say that Mekhi Becton, like he is going to change things. And I think that he is going to take a really nice leap as a pass protector, which is like our main concern. He looked fantastic when I had eyes on him on Monday and just executed everything very well. And him and Joe Alt are like just going to destroy people in the run game.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned this in the solo episode I did, but there were multiple plays where they were on the front side of a power concept to their side. And so there's somebody pulling across formation. And those two, it's just like a tidal wave. Like they're just like, they create so much movement. And it's not like the Chargers interior defensive line and edge rushers are like small. You know, we don't know exactly what kind of players they are, but the Chargers interior defensive line is very beefy.
300 plus minutes.
Yeah. And so it's that part is going to be better. The tackles are great, obviously, but
yeah,
it just feels like they're going to get to a point where they're just going to look back and like, man, like we could have just added like one other piece to compete here and maybe elevate things a little bit. But they have other things on offense going well, which we can talk about. Heading into the Hall of Fame game, I think there's obviously some things we want to see happen from a skill player standpoint. The player throwing them the football and potentially carrying the football is going to be Trey Lance, who I think has a leg up in the QB2 battle, but he is going to play the entire first half, according to Jim Harbaugh, and then a drive or two in the second half. And Jim Harbaugh said that he wants to get Trey Lance as many game reps as possible. And I would expect him to play a lot in the preseason in these 4 games because he's so far behind in game reps. Like he just doesn't really have that many game reps to his credit. So he's going to play the bulk of the snaps. DJ Uiagalelei is going to play, about half of the third quarter, all of the fourth quarter with like the third team offense. And then Taylor Heineke is going to dress and be the emergency backup quarterback. So I have seen Trey Lance in person once. We watched like the game from last year. What are you hoping to see from Trey Lance? We'll start there, and then we'll address kind of like QB2 after that. But for Trey tomorrow, what do you want to see?
Really good question. I think that my expectation for what at least will happen, and at least he'll attempt, is I think there will be plenty of go balls to Keandre Lambert-Smith. I think pushing the thing down the field is going to happen a lot. I would love to see the intermediate and short stuff. Like I feel like with the way they've been using Tre Harris, I don't know, maybe it was different at the practice you saw. I'm not there. I don't see all these reps, but it generally seems like he's more the short intermediate guy, chain mover, very involved, but the go ball, the vertical stuff seems to be more so Quentin, who is not playing, and then Keandre Lambert-Smith. So I want to see Trey Lance hit those as well. This is a guy who had, and now I don't recall exactly why, but he had 2 fumbles, 5 interceptions the last time that I watched him play football, which was against the Chargers. Not all on him, and he played a full game, but that was not great. The pick that he threw, that Keandre Lambert-Smith dropped, was behind him. It did kind of, not behind, but like he forced him to kind of stop, jump up a little bit to catch it, and it caused an interception. So I just want to see some of the short game evolve. If all Trey Lance is a runner and a vertical element guy, because look, I don't really blame him a ton. That's just what he was in college, and he barely played in college. He's barely played in the NFL. That's just kind of his go-to. And Keandre Lambert-Smith has been rewarding him. So I understand why he'd go that route, but I want to see that he can progress and be a bit more than just that. And if not, then I think Taylor Heineke kind of has this wrapped up because he can, in theory, run a more efficient offense down, I think. So we'll see. But I hope that he's at least showing good efficiency and sustaining drives rather than just like F it and chuck it like Easton Stick was for like the 1 or 2 plays last year.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because if he really is going to win the QB2 battle, like he's going to have to show he can actually run the offense. When I was at practice, it was a lot of bootlegs, a lot of like RPOs, a lot of, zone reads. Like they actually like ran quarterback run concepts in practice on Monday, which I've really like never seen. But if he is truly going to take this leap as a player and elevate into a firm QB2 situation, which he hasn't really been, he's got to show to me that he can, okay, my first read's taken away. Maybe second read's taken away. Let's get to my third read. And I don't know how much of that is going to happen in a preseason game.
Right.
But that is something that Jesse Minter and his defense really, made him struggle with. And so if the Lions, who are mostly a man coverage team, we'll see how much that changes with the new coaching staff. But maybe not. Maybe he doesn't get that a ton of opportunity there tomorrow. But across these 4 games where I like I said, I think he's going to play a ton. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays like an entire game in one of these games.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got to show that he can operate within the pocket. Like I feel like after watching him last year, what he was as a prospect and seeing him in practice, I know what he does well, which is stuff on the move. Like he's very accurate on the move. He can throw the deep ball. But the missing piece obviously is just like the game reps of like, okay, let me go through my progressions here. Maybe instead of running right away, maybe I can actually hit a check down to Kamani Vidal. Like that kind of the little things here is really what's going to take this over the top for Trey Lance.
Yeah. So I personally do think that Heineke does have the QB2 job, barring just a sensational preseason. Like this is a competition. I genuinely do believe that Trey Lance can win this. But as of today, I would still say that Heineke has it, but that they will keep 3 quarterbacks.
Yes, I think 3 quarterbacks is essentially a lock at this point in time. I feel like Greg Roman in particular has a very specific style of backup quarterback that he usually likes to work with, and that's definitely more Trey. But I think that Jim Harbaugh wants his backup quarterback to be able to operate an offense and not turn the ball over. Like those are the main two things. So again, that's kind of what Trey has to show, is that he can keep that, it's not turn the ball over 6 times in a game, which like they still put up a lot of points in that game, but obviously, it didn't really matter at preseason and all that. But when I was at practice, like there's just a different pop with Trey Lance's arm than Taylor Heinicke's arm, which is not a surprise. I mean, Taylor Heinicke was an undrafted free agent. He's kind of more of your scrappy, like underdog guy. And Trey Lance, even though he wasn't experienced, like he has an explosive arm and he's an explosive athlete. So I think he checks more boxes for Roman and what Roman would want in a backup. But I think Taylor Heinicke, if he is going to be on this team, I think like his veteran leadership and his ability to operate within the pocket, those are the things that's going to keep him around. When I was there on Monday, Trey Lance took every second team rep, and it sounds like that happened yesterday and that happened on Saturday. So I'm a little conflicted with like what that actually means for QB2. I like I've said, I feel like Heinicke is more of like a Harbaugh guy and Lance is more of a Roman guy. And they could just be saying, we don't know what we have in Trey. Like, let's see all of these reps. But then I was listening to Popper's recap from yesterday, and he mentioned that in the spring in OTAs, there wasn't even really like a rotation with the second team offense. It was all Heinicke. Now it's been like rotation or Trey gets like all the reps with the second team offense. So I don't really know what to make of this. I'm not going to hand Trey Lance the job, obviously. He has to go out in the preseason and show that he has developed, but I think that we are trending towards Trey being QB2.
Yeah, very possible. I think that like tomorrow, if Herbert gets hurt, and obviously not literally tomorrow, but like if like in a game that we're playing tomorrow, it's a regular season, Herbert gets hurt, Heinicke goes in to close out that game. Or Herbert gets hurt on Sunday, they have a game on Thursday, Heinicke starts that game. But I could see them then going, if this is a serious thing, long-term thing, they're just going to let Trey Lance do his thing for the rest of the year or for 6 weeks or whatever. So we'll see.
Bolts for Life says that he thinks that DJ Uiagalelei's arm is stronger than Trey Lance. He thinks that he is a step below Herbert, but Trey is well below both. I don't agree with that assessment. Personally, I think Trey Lance has a very lively arm. DJ did not get a single rep when I was there on Monday, and he's been getting like very minimal reps in practice because they're trying to see what Trey has. I think that's really like their main thing with the backup quarterbacks right now. But when he does, he's always with the third team. He'll handle like the 9-on-7 stuff, which if you've never seen practice, 9-on-7 is like basically you work on run game formations and you work on the practices and stuff like that. He'll do that with the first team offense, but he never actually like gets to throw the football. So DJ is like, he's a fine undrafted free agent kind of quarterback, and maybe he's done enough for them to be on the practice squad. And Harbaugh has taken several moments out to go and coach him, but I don't think he's really in this conversation at all for QB2.
Yeah, definitely not. Not even QB3, respectfully.
Yeah. Matt Money Smith says DJ has the next most live arm. I just don't agree. Like, I think part of having a live arm does also include accuracy, but I think Trey has that in the bag personally.
Yeah. At minimum, we know that about Trey.
Yeah. Speaking of a different Tre Harris and the rest of the young wide receivers are going to play tomorrow. Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson will not be playing. Jalen Reagor has been injured, so I don't know if he's going to be playing. But Tre Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Delavon Campbell, all these young guys that have been showing up in training camp thus far will be playing tomorrow. And I think, like I said, I don't know how much Trey is going to play, but Keandre Lambert-Smith and Delavon Campbell have each had several practices where they've had the catch of the day, and both of those guys can go up and get it. Both of those guys are plenty fast enough to stretch the field vertically. I'm excited to see what those two guys can do, man. Like, I think, I don't know if Campbell can do enough in the preseason to like make the roster, but he's been showing up and he has been, having great practices so far. I don't know if you watched him and before training camp. But he's an explosive athlete, man. And so I'm excited to see Trey, DJ, who does, have a strong arm. I'm not going to say that he doesn't. I'm excited to see if these young guys can, uncork a go ball here and catch a bomb or two tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm dying to see these receivers play DBs who will actually contest the football, press them, hit them, tackle them, all that sort of stuff. Because you watch so much of practice. All these highlights are really cool, but it's like, there's no safety, there's no other corner, there's no pass rush. It's like 1,000, 2 1,000, 3. It's like I kind of want to see them, play. And then the ball goes in the air, and you can tell, like, a lot of the times, let's say it's like Cam Hart. For some reason, it's just been Cam Hart. Cam Hart against Jamar Chase, whoever, turns around, swats the ball down, hits the guy off the line, you name it. In these one-on-ones, he's just kind of, they're running with them, playing tight, moving with them, but it's not the same. So I'm really, really curious if Keandre Lambert-Smith can just show me that stuff that he did at Penn State or at Auburn. Well, Penn State, but then Auburn. And then in practice, can he do that against guys who are trying to win jobs? He's, I think, been better than expected in camp. I don't know how much to rate or how to properly rate how receivers play in camp at this point, because it's just designed for them to win for the most part. But everybody I'm very excited to see. Of course, Tre Harris. I don't buy that Tre Harris will work specifically with these quarterbacks based on how they're using him. If Herbert starts this game, it's 1,000,000% going to work, no problem. And Tre Harris is bit like, good gracious, that catch that he just had was awesome. But I don't know if Tre Harris is throwing that football. Trey Lance is throwing that football to Tre Harris in that situation. So we'll see.
Breaking news, not of Chargers related, but the Raiders and Colton Miller just reached an extension on a 3-year, $66 million contract.
Awesome. I'm excited to watch Khalil Mack get 4 sacks next year against him.
Yeah, dude, these not backup. That's definitely not what I meant. The tier 3 tackle money nowadays is crazy. Colton Miller at $22 million per year. Dan Moore, who gave up 60 pressures, got $20 million from the Titans. It's crazy, crazy. Jalen Moore, who's the Chiefs paid they paid lower level starting left tackle money to. He's now playing guard because their rookie left tackle apparently looks awesome, so that's super cool.
Yeah, that really sucks.
So that tier of offensive tackle is getting paid, and good for them, but that's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm excited. I really like Colton Miller on the days that he plays the Chargers.
Yeah. Getting back to the young wide receivers, I think part of the Trey Lance conversation applies to Keandre Lambert-Smith. So for me, what I've seen from Keandre Lambert-Smith is a lot of vertical, explosive plays, which is great. I think the Chargers definitely need that kind of conversation. I do want to kind of caution Chargers fans from overblowing what Keandre Lambert-Smith is doing, and I'm very pleased with where he's at. I don't want to be that guy that's just poo-pooing on Keandre Lambert-Smith, because I like him. I think he can have a very nice role within this offense. But there's a lot of Chargers fans out there that think that he could be a legit wide receiver too, for this offense. And I just don't love a lot of the route running stuff that I saw in person on Monday. I think he can do all the vertical stuff.
Totally.
But in this situation where he's probably going to be the wide receiver 1 for, effectively for the bulk of the preseason, I want to see him be able to create more separation and work the top of the stem routes a little bit more crisply. He goes out yesterday and says that when the ball is in the air, it's his. The same day he had a really, really bad drop. I need to see more nuance in his game. I know he could be explosive. That was my favorite thing from him. Totally. I know he's competitive. I know he has that wide receiver attitude that you really need. I know I think he can block as well. I need to see him show some more nuance to his game. And in these situations where he's probably going to play a ton and he's probably going to be that guy, can he continue to show off some timing with Trey Lance? Can he show off more versatility than just winning on goes and posts and corners? That to me is like the most interesting thing for me from a skill player standpoint in the preseason, because I think this might be like the only time we see Tre Harris play in a preseason game. I think like he's looked so good in practice, and DeAndre
Tell me more, Steven. Tell me more of those things I want to hear. Tell me more about that.
There was a name thrown out about Tre Harris by multiple people that I talked to, and that was Mr. DeAndre Hopkins. Just like the body control, the separation, the size, the strength, and he can run every route. And I know that like the knock on him coming out of Ole Miss was like, oh, like how many routes do you actually run at Ole Miss? And it's like, well, if you watch him run the routes, like you see, so he can run every route in the book. And I think he just complements Ladd and Quentin perfectly. So I think this is going to be the only time we see Tre Harris play in a preseason game, because I think he's going to continue to cement himself as a starting wide receiver very quickly. And the way that he talks and works, shows up at 5:30 every single day for practice, like he's checking all of the boxes. And like the Jalen Reagor thing with the first team offense was cool for a little bit, like whatever, I get it, like veteran guy. I expect when the next time we see Reagor healthy, I think Tre Harris is the first team Z receiver, which I don't know how much I love him being the Z instead of the X, but
Yeah.
I think Tre will establish himself as a starter very quickly, and that's great news for us and our agendas. For Keandre Lambert-Smith, I think it's going to give him a lot of opportunity in the preseason to like lead this team in receiving in the preseason, which is good for both of those players.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Keandre Lambert-Smith, even if his only role this year and for 2 years is vertical step, that was sorely missed last year. The Chargers were dying for anything like that. So if he can mix in and do that, great. But yes, Tre Harris, as soon as when Herbert threw that specific touchdown to him and split the defenders, that's like he throws that to Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey and Gerald Everett that one time against Arizona. But otherwise, like he only, now it's practice. I get that. But that throw was like, okay, gotcha. That's a very much like he will look off anybody else. He actively did not throw it to Hurst last year. Like he will not throw it to you if he doesn't want to. Throwing that, like that kind of football, that's a lot of trust. And I don't recall him having any like significant drops over the last of training camp at all. Not that he hasn't. Everybody has, but I don't know. He seems like he's having a great camp. I agree with you. I think Hall of Fame game, you know, I mean, one more game, a drive. I don't know if Herbert's going to play at all. I doubt it. But if he does, like maybe Harris gets out there. But yeah, I'm very excited for both these receivers.
Yeah, Herbert's injury last year made it so we don't really know like how much the veteran offenses are, you know, people are going to be playing, you know, in the preseason. Sorry, I'm just gonna do that real quick.
You're making
me
laugh.
Like, dude, what are we doing? So I don't know. Maybe Herbert and the starters gonna get like one game, but I don't know if we'll see them play a whole lot. I think they're going to use preseason as an evaluation period for the young guys, and it's kind of what the preseason is around the league these days.
Yeah.
But I think to your point about that catch, so I was with Brett Coleman on the opposite side of like where the fans are and like the stands, and they were like up close and personal. Like the Tre Harris touchdown happened like right in front of the VIP tent. I don't know if you remember where that's at.
Yeah.
And so we were on like the opposite side, and I'm like watching that play unfold, and I see Troy Dye and Tony Jefferson like in that window, and they motion Trey to the slot. So I was like, okay, like they're probably going to try and isolate him here. And I'm like, there's no way Justin's going to throw this pass. Like there's no window here. And when he did, I was like, okay, like this is it felt very like Ladd-esque, like, okay, like I'm going to start trusting this guy. And I think that's continued to show up in camps, you know, starting yesterday as well. So like there's just a lot of, you know, room for Trey to grow. And I think I would have loved to see what this offense could look like with Mike Williams in it. But with Tre Harris kind of establishing himself this way, I think the Chargers are going to be in a pretty good spot. So there's a couple questions in the chat about X versus Z. The Chargers have said, Greg Roman has said, in particular, that they wanted to get Trey focused on like one position first. And that's not uncommon. Like, coming into the NFL as a rookie in general is like very difficult. So they decided, which I think Mike Williams was a part of this, that they were going to have him focus on the Z spot, which is kind of your backside receiving spot. So, if you're looking at things like, generally speaking, if you're isolating one receiver to one side, that's your X receiver, and then the other receiver is kind of working to the opposite side. And so Tre Harris is your Z receiver. He can motion, he can flex spots, things like that. Whereas the X is like more singularity to that one side, and he's more your boundary guy. So I understand trying to make things a little simpler for Trey. They believe he can play all three spots, which I agree with. I think he can do any of that. And they have kind of started to put him into the slot a little bit more. But Quentin Johnson has been their main X receiver. When Rager was out there, he got some reps on as the X receiver, but for the most part, it has been Quentin Johnston. With the second team offense, it's been Trey or Keandre Lambert-Smith. And because Trey is now with the first team offense, it's mostly been Keandre Lambert-Smith. And Campbell has kind of worked in there a little bit more recently as well. So we'll see what happens with Trey. I think his role is going to evolve. And I think as they get more into the season, I think they'll kind of mix and match a little bit more with Quentin and with Trey. But for right now, QJ is your X, Trey is your Z, Ladd is your slot. And I know people don't want to hear this, but when they go to multiple tight ends with just two receivers, like it's QJ and Ladd. I think that maybe eventually that can become Trey. But QJ is ahead of Trey right now, as evidenced by the fact that he's not even playing tomorrow.
Yeah. Which I understand. I completely understand. We've said it a million times. They didn't even get Ladd McConkey really involved until week like 8. So I get it. It's fine. I'll live with it. Quentin Johnston has been having a very good camp. I'll say that, and that's all I'll say.
Yes, I agree with that. Okay, a lot of talk about the offense. Any other final things you're looking for tomorrow there before we switch gears to the defense?
Just Aranda Gadsden and blocking. That's it. I just want to see if he can, does he line up next to, Joe Alt and block an edge rusher? I don't know.
Do we think Joe Alt plays tomorrow?
I'm sorry, not Joe Alt. The right tackle. I just named the right tackle I thought of.
You're good.
Whoever's right tackle tomorrow.
It's probably Ryan Nelson.
Yeah, probably. Does he block an edge rusher?
Yeah, so second team right tackle has been kind of a rotating thing between Ryan Nelson and Corey Stewart. I think his name is from Purdue. I don't think we'll see Trey Pipkins tomorrow. I don't know. That would be kind of weird for me to rest all these other traditional veterans and not rest Trey, but we'll see. I think those two tackles are going to have a lot of reps in the preseason as well, so that'll be interesting. But Orande's blocking looks a lot better in person. I was very encouraged on Monday to see him execute things. I'm not going to sit here and say like he's the best blocker in the world. They had him like lead up into a hole as a puller one time, and that did not go very well. But on like outside zone, inside zone, like he can seal off the backside. He can function as a blocker as long as they're not trying to, have him do things and be a little bit more dominantly powerful, I guess is how I would describe that.
Okay, cool. Love to see. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see him. Does he look like actually like he bulked up? Like
he definitely looks bigger.
Okay.
There's still a lot of hope out there for Steve Klotz. He is the smallest tight end in the room.
Really?
I don't know. He is the smallest tight end in the room, and that includes Jordan Pataya, who just is playing football for the first time right now. Klotz is significantly smaller and lighter than everybody else in that room.
Yeah, definitely wasn't a big guy. I just didn't think he'd be like the smallest guy. But I guess that makes sense. Fisk is enormous.
Yeah, Fisk is enormous. Scott Matlock is obviously very large. Will Dissly is big. Conklin is big. Gadsden is bigger than he was. Steve Klotz is very small. And he is getting 0 fullback snaps, by the way. If you think he's the fullback of the future or whatever, he is not getting any chances to play there.
Yeah, that was kind of my vibe after watching him. Not that he can't get there, but he's pretty firmly entrenched by buying other options. Okay, sorry, not to stall us on offense longer.
You're good.
How is Fisk? Like, how much in the picture is Fisk at this point?
I think he's still in the picture.
Okay.
I think what's difficult for him is that he doesn't really play special teams. So he works mostly in with the second special teams unit, and Gadsden has started to work in with the first team special teams unit, and Tyler Conklin has worked in the first team special teams unit. Matlock does kickoff return and kickoff. So he's like, Fisk is definitely behind the 8 ball in terms of special teams, but he still is getting a ton of reps in the first team offense. Like when they do 2 tight end sets in run games in 9-on-7 situations, for example, he is with the first team offense a lot. So him, Will Dissly, Scott Matlock were on the field a lot on Monday's practice together. So he's still very involved from a roster construction standpoint, and we'll get to this in a little bit with some other things, but I just don't know like how they can really justify keeping 4 tight ends and a fullback technically with Scott Matlock. So we'll see. And if Gadsden is going to be functional as a blocker, then they don't really need Fisk. So we'll see. Can he be a practice squad guy? I think that's to be determined.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Our audio audience is going to take a quick break, and then our YouTube audience is going to be continuing right along after this. Okay. So defensively, I am super anxious and excited to see how this defensive tackle room plays out.
Yep.
People could not stop just absolutely glowing about Otito Ogbonia in practice on Monday when I was there. And he had a very good productive day. Tier Tart, Deshaun Hand definitely looked the part. I don't expect those 2 players to play tomorrow. But if the Otito Ogbonia breakout season is upon us, like I need to see it in a game. And they have some other young guys too. Justin Eboigbe has had some moments in other preseason and in other training camp moments. Jamari Caldwell has had some moments. So those 3 players, I need to see what it looks like in a game. And I think this is going to be Jamari's, in particular, his best chance to show the Chargers that he can get, into the first team, second team defenses a little bit more. Because right now it kind of seems like he's mostly a third team defense guy in practice. But Otito, Justin Eboigbe have gotten a lot of rave reviews, Otito in particular. So if those 3 play tomorrow, I need to see what it looks like with pads. And I also need the chat to chill the hell out tonight. Like, what is going on? My goodness. Defensive tackle wise, though, man, I'm excited to see what it looks like tomorrow.
Yeah, everyone's trying to get their like Phillip Rivers on in the chat right now. Holy cow. This is 6th year doing this. This is the freakiest the chat has been. We've already blocked some other people as is. Anyway, if you had asked me, what are you most looking forward to watching tomorrow, other than Tre Harris, it's the interior defensive line and some of these younger guys, and in particular, Jamari Caldwell. It's crazy that he's like the biggest investment that they've given Jesse Minter. I suppose bringing in Elijah Bolton back at that contract sort of counts, but that's it. Like Jamari Caldwell is their biggest investment. Like, here you go, Minter, work with this. And as much as I love Clinkscale and what Minter have done with the defensive backs, I really think like no one's done more with less than Elston and the interior defensive line and how great they were last year, despite having the least amount of talent. I'd argue they have even less talent this year, but all reports out of camp is they're just kind of whooping everybody. And do you think Otito plays tomorrow?
I'm not sure. Like he played a ton for them last year.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if he classifies as like a veteran, and
right.
I would expect him to play some in the preseason.
Yeah.
Just because they don't have the bodies. Like, are you going to rest Naquan Jones as well? Like, I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Tier Tart and Deshaun Hand will play because those 2 are like very clearly the top 2 guys in the room. But I would think that we see Otito at least a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would love to see him do well there. But yes, I want to see Jamari Caldwell, Justin Eboigbe. Very excited to see what those guys do tomorrow. Because the Lions are a trenches team. Yes, they've had some, guys moving in and out. Obviously, Ben Johnson is gone. Still a trenches team. I think Miles Frazier's out right now, so he won't be playing tomorrow. But they've still drafted a couple of younger guys. Like they are, again, a trenches team for sure. So it'll be a very good test for them against arguably like the strength of the backups tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree there. Bolts for Life asking about Scott Matlock as a defensive lineman. He rotates in with the second team defense a little bit. But I think I would have like he says in the chat here, if he were just strictly a defensive lineman, I don't think we would see him on this roster. Like this defensive line room is really, really solid from 1 through 6. And unfortunately, he's like outside of that 6. And they feel so good about their defensive line room that you just mentioned Jamari Caldwell and their investment in him. He can't really get into the second team defense right now. So this defensive tackle room, I don't think they have like a star, but with Tiertart, Deshaun Hand, Naquan Jones, Otito Ogbonia, if his leap is real, that 4 plus whatever you get from Eboigbe and Jamari Caldwell, that's a really solid room. Is it going to be like, we do our show for game previews. We do the what keeps us up at night, each week. Is the Chargers defensive tackle room going to be featured in that segment equivalent for other teams? Probably not. But it's a good room if Otito and these guys, these younger players can hit. So I those 6 guys I think are very much entrenched ahead of Scott Matlock as a defensive lineman. I think he still makes the roster just because of the fullback versatility here. But yeah, as a pure defensive tackle, like it's not, there's not a lot of positive vibes going there for him right now. And I know that he wants to be a Pro Bowl defensive lineman, and that's great. I think after this training camp, he just needs to focus on offense and only do offense.
Yes, I think he's going to make the roster because they've now printed a special black jersey for him. I think that's kind of like I don't know. Yeah, like it's very Harbaugh-y and standout-y. It's a patch of its own. But yes, I think he can make the Pro Bowl, and I think he will maybe have played defensive tackle in the season he makes the Pro Bowl, but it will be for fullback.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, other defensive notes. I'm curious to see what corners play tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're just kind of dealing with some like minor injuries. I don't really we obviously have nothing concrete, but Tariq still was back yesterday in practice in individual drills. He did not participate in team drills, but he had missed, I think it was 3 practices in a row before yesterday. Dante Jackson has missed 2 practices. Cam Hart has missed 2 practices. Benjamin St. Juste, I don't think has practiced in like a week. And those are 4 guys that obviously are competing for potentially starting roles. Really the only corner that has practiced every single practice that's like competing for a starting spot is Jasir Taylor. And it sounds like he's had a great training camp so far. And Jesse Minter says that he's one of the most improved players on the team. So do any of those guys even play tomorrow? I have no idea. I don't know if they have the bodies to not let those guys play tomorrow. And then obviously you have the Nico Reed of this whole conversation where he's having potentially the best camp of any cornerback on the roster with pass breakups, interceptions. It feels like every day. So the preseason, obviously for him, is going to be a huge moment to see if he can seize a roster spot. Can he play special teams is obviously going to be super important. But who they play at corner and how those corners play is definitely something I'll be looking for tomorrow and the rest of the preseason.
Yeah, very curious how they distribute. I'm not really worried right now about the injuries, but in terms of bodies for the preseason, I don't know. I'll have to look over their roster, who's available. I guess it's a big like Tri Bridges moment, I suppose, who's been very up and down. I still feel kind of strong that he's not making the roster because you have to cut guys somewhere. But what are you people writing in the chat? Someone stepped on your pet cricket. What the heck is wrong with the chat today? Anyway, I would love to see Miles Purchase get over some work in the slot. I think he'll have to by default. But
yeah, not a ton of buzz about Eric Rodgers in practice so far. Unfortunately, Dean Leonard hasn't really had a ton of shine right now. So it's again, we talked about this when we did our first 53-man, like this situation where they potentially keep 5 safeties and 5 corners, or Is it 5 safeties and 6 corners? Is it 4 safeties and 6 corners? Like those last 2 defensive back conversations and how the Chargers go about picking those players is very interesting. And unfortunately, these guys have just been injured. There's not been a lot of consistency. So there's been a lot of rotating casts, with those first team corners. Like one practice, it's Dante Jackson and Jasir Taylor out there. Next practice, it's Tariq Still and Cam Hart. Like it's just been, unfortunately, a rotating cast of characters, and which is, they're trying to figure out who their best corners are, and so you want to give those guys those opportunities, but they just haven't had a ton of consistency. So Nico Reed in particular, if he's going to be this consistent in practice, that's great. But if he can get an interception or 2 in the preseason, can he get a couple pass breakups? That would be fantastic for his stock. Can he do enough to unseat somebody like Dean Leonard, Triquez Bridges, who they drafted? I think he'd have to have a great preseason to do that, but it seems like that's on the table right now with how he's been practicing.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun. I really did think this corner group was set, or it was Leonard or Bridges, and that was the competition. Taylor maybe had to have a good camp. That was it. It was nice to see that there actually is going to be a competition here where another UDFA could make the roster.
Yeah, I agree there. Last thing from the defensive perspective, just because I don't know what we'll see from the linebackers and safeties and stuff like that, but edge rusher has been very quiet outside of Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu. Kyle Kennard, Tremont Morris-Brash, unfortunately have to go up against some great offensive tackles in practice, but man, do we need some positive vibes, from those 2 players in the preseason. Not that Tremont Morris-Brash is going to be like a lock to make the roster or anything like that. But it's been a little too quiet, from those 2, in training camp. And I need to see them kind of perform in the preseason starting tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Like you said, I know they're playing great tackles. I know it's not like they've been doing a ton of pad work recently, but it's been very quiet on that front. Whereas I think even Tuli's rookie year, we heard a lot about Tuli. He just was great and had moments and several moments. These guys, I don't see as much or hear about as much. So yeah, tomorrow would be a great time to announce yourself. Kyle Kennard in particular, given that they have 4 years with him. And we felt pretty strongly about him at minimum as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he does there. We'll see if he can play special teams.
Yeah. Popper has said that Caleb Murphy is the special teams edge rusher right now. So that would really throw a wrench into roster prediction, because if he's only a special teams pick, that makes things tough.
Yeah.
They got to figure out somebody who can play special teams, because they cannot afford to have Tuli out there playing 330 special team snaps again. I know he wants to. He said he loves playing special teams, which is great. I love that about Tuli.
Yeah.
But that cannot be the rotation again. So this is a situation where Kyle Kennard needs to, he's going to get special teams reps tomorrow and in the preseason. It needs to go well. And then as a pass rusher, we just need to see more of it. So they do fewer one-on-ones than other teams. In other practices that I've been to under different regimes, or looking at how other teams do practice, when they go into one-on-ones, generally speaking, each player will get 4 or 5 reps. The Chargers give each guy 2 reps, and they'll go through 10 offensive linemen and 10 defensive linemen. And right now that leaves guys like Jamari Caldwell and Kyle Kennard outside of getting reps in one-on-ones. So I'm relying on, a very small handful of third team defensive snaps for Kyle Kennard right now. And so maybe him getting more reps in practice would allow him to perform better.
Yeah.
But man, I just don't think I would have envisioned such a slow start for him or for Jamari Caldwell, who has had some more moments. So I need to see some Kyle Kennard moments in the preseason, and it would be great if it were tomorrow.
Yeah, if preseason, I get it. If it's not a ton of noise, okay. Training camp, okay. Fine if it's not a ton of noise. But if they go another year where one of these defensive draft picks does not really contribute at all, and if we're not seeing a trend towards a Boygby building, so maybe they think it's more of like a 3-year thing for some of these guys, then they got to start switching things up and investing more in the defensive room early on, or just financially. I get it. Minter makes things work. That's awesome. But if we're just throwing draft picks at players who we like, but they just for some reason cannot even get on the field because the veterans are just trusted ahead of them, then we got to change something here to, or not, I guess, if it works.
Yeah. Obviously, if they lose Jesse Minter, I would very much like to see them invest some like premium resources in the defense.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Mike Elson earlier, Steve Klingscale. This defensive coaching staff is outstanding. And watching, so I spent a lot of the time watching offensive line and defensive tackles on practice on Monday, just because I wanted to see like Mike Elston and what, like, dude, the attention to detail with Mike Elston in practice is crazy. Like they drilled down just movements of like one pass rush move. So they took probably 10 minutes of individual drills just working on a swipe pass rush move with every defensive tackle. And so Mike Heisten, who's kind of the defensive line assistant, he had the hand pads, and they would do like the first step. Each player would take like 3 first steps, and then they would do the second step, and then they would do the third step like 3 different times. And then they would go to the next player, and then to the next player. And the attention to detail with Mike Elson is crazy, man. Like I have not seen that kind of, just like pure precision in individual drills at any other position since I've been going to practice.
Yeah, would have loved to stood next to him and just listen, because again, he's just getting, and it's not even that he's getting a lot out of players that are even like good names they bring in that we know a lot about. And again, I know it's only been 1 year, but it's like career resurrections with what he's doing. I mean, Poona Ford just got paid a ton, and Poona Ford was pretty good anyway, but the guy couldn't even scratch the room, like the lineup in Baltimore, but in Buffalo. And then suddenly he's like here, but they paid $10 million a year with the Rams because poof, that's just the Elston effect. So and Minter, of course. So yeah, he's just awesome. It's a really, really good coaching staff.
Yeah, and Mike Elson loves Tre Tart, by the way. Like those two guys are attached to the hip at practice. Like he loves Tre Tart.
Tart has this great story, I feel like, either starting or it's already started, where he finally found his home, and it just seems like the Chargers found him and loved him. He knew what he had to do. He found the right environment for himself. Previous baggage may have been left behind, and it's a perfect marriage right now, where I think they let Ford go, and I kind of get it. I think Tart, if he plays even well enough this year, I think he is back.
Yeah, I would agree. People asking about Junior Colson in the chat. I would definitely expect that he plays tomorrow. Dayon and Perryman, I do not think will be playing tomorrow. We'll see about Troy Dye, but Junior Colson is absolutely playing tomorrow. I forget the former Rutgers linebacker Wax Marlowe, right? He'll play tomorrow. Yeah. I don't know if the special teams linebackers are going to be playing, but I would definitely expect Junior Colson to play like a good amount tomorrow.
He should. It's not fun, and I think he's a future starter, but he's LB4 right now, and they're not playing 4 linebackers. So I think he needs to go out and play a fair amount, longer than Zion.
Yes, longer than Zion. It's just those two guys, man. Checked every single box, both of them, and I don't know. We'll see about Junior, but he needs to play a lot. Like he missed out on so many valuable reps last fall because he was dealing with the appendicitis and then the injuries and things like that. Junior needs to play a lot. And does he need to play like full games? No, like I don't think he'll play with like the third team guys, but he needs to play a lot and he needs to play well. Like I think, we did that segment before the season of like who needs to have a great camp, and I chose Junior Colson, and people were like, what are you talking about? He hasn't really had like a great camp. Like he's had some moments in 9-on-7 drills according to Daniel Popper, but it hasn't been like very consistent. And then Denzel Perryman missed a practice the other day, and Troy Dye was the one working with the first team defense and not Junior Colson. So we'll see what happens. Like I think they're giving Junior all the opportunity to say, hey man, like this is my spot, but it hasn't really happened yet. And I think the best version of this defense includes Junior being the starting linebacker, but we haven't really seen him take that leap quite yet. And this is a really important preseason stretch for him. Like, he's got to show that he can really be a starting caliber player, and I think I think we will see that come to fruition. But he's got to have a good preseason going forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Tyler, we hit a bunch. Going forward with the other preseason games, once we get more information like who's playing and who's not playing, we'll maybe highlight some more individuals that way. But anybody else on offense, defense that you're anxious, excited to see tomorrow?
I really think the construction of the 53-man roster in terms of predictions is so much easier if you just cut Branson Taylor, which sounds super mean, but Jamari apparently is looking really great, and he can play any spot for you other than center. Trey Pipkins is a swing tackle, but he could play guard. Bradley Bozeman can play guard. Theoretically, it's possible. Andre James can play guard. Zion plays guard. And so you have a lot of options. And then there's Branson Taylor, who he is not going to start over any of those players this year. He is going to be a healthy scratch every week this season. Mm-hmm. Can I feel good about keeping him on the roster? I understand the Chargers need interior depth. I'm not going to complain they don't get interior depth and then cut that depth and feel good about it. I understand. But he's not going to play. He's still learning how to play guard. I really, really want to see what he can do out there to show that it's worth the long-term investment over cutting, let's say it's Bridges or Nico Reed, who's balling out, but we drafted Branson Taylor, so we got to let Nico Reed go, and whoops, the Eagles picked them up or something. I really want to see what Branson Taylor can do because he's going to be a healthy scratch all year. I hope he's a healthy scratch all year. If there's an injury on the interior, he's still potentially a healthy scratch all year. And if there's another injury on the interior, they're just going to sign another guy. So they're going to hold on to a player all year. It's not going to play. He might not even be good. I hope he is, but I want to see what he looks like in real action to show. So okay, I see it. Sure, he's not playing this year, but man, in a couple of years or even maybe next year, all right, you feel good about him as a backup.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch him a ton. I was mostly focused on the first team guys and then defensive line and stuff like that. Deshaun Hand hit him with a couple nasty moves in one-on-one. So it's just different. I don't know how many starting caliber defensive linemen he's going to play these next couple games, but he's going to get a lot of reps. I would expect him to play the bulk of the game. They just don't have the bodies to rotate him out. So Kaltenberger is a good one. He's an athletic guy. I don't know how much we're going to see Andre James, but then again, Zion's playing tomorrow. So Andre James is going to have to play at some point. So I don't know, man. I'm excited to see what the offensive line rotation looks like. The Chargers don't really have. It's Branson Taylor and then the undrafted free agent guys. And I just don't know who they're going to keep a couple on the practice squad, but who is that guy? I think is an underrated, preseason storyline here. Obviously this is the Antonio Gates weekend, which Eric Smith had an awesome Antonio Gates feature if you missed it. So as Hugo Boss points out, it would be pretty poetic if Oronde Gadsden had a big moment in front of Antonio Gates in that weekend. I think that's a great call out as well.
Yeah, if he had 85 yards or something. The story by Eric Smith was fantastic. I learned so much. I didn't know all that much. I mean, Antonio Gates, they had to pitch him to join the Chargers as a UDFA, and he got a $2,000 signing bonus. So which I don't know what they are these days. I'm pretty sure it's more than $2,000.
Let's look at the Chargers.
Yeah, what is? I mean, isn't Rocket Sanders $40,000 or $50,000 bonuses or something? I mean, just sign of the times, I guess.
Yeah, he was their most expensive one, right?
I believe so, yeah. Definitely one of them.
Where's the signing bonus at?
I didn't even know if they say signing bonus. Did you say roster bonus?
It says prorated signing bonus.
Sure.
So this is saying that Rockets signing bonus was $5,000.
I have no idea.
That doesn't sound right.
No, it doesn't sound right. Either way, Antonio Gates became one of the greatest tight ends of all time. That wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, the thing you pointed out on social media was crazy to me, that like he only got to work out really for the Chargers. Like there was no
Destiny.
other workout situation going on because he got injured or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that very fortunate that Gates got to be a Charger, obviously.
Yeah, I mean the point of the story was crazy. He's not feeling it in the NBA. He says like teams wanted him to lose weight. He's like, I just can't lose weight. I'm 255. I can't drop the weight. They kind of notice him. He thinks about football. They try to work with him. He does one workout, and only the Chargers sent their tight ends coach. And he has a great workout, so much buzz. They plan a second workout, but he hurts his knee, and it's his like a 60% effort during that second workout. All the other teams are like, "What are you talking about? What is this?" But he was hurt. And then, the Chargers are like, well, I know everything I needed to see. Please don't do another workout. Yeah. The rest is history. It's a great story. It really is.
Yeah, there was a lot of excitement in the building about Gates going in this weekend, obviously.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Chargers are practicing on Saturday.
Hmm.
So I would imagine that Nick Hardwick just gets to stay and like be there, but I think everybody else will probably come back. But I'm curious to see who announces him, or like who is his presenter, I guess.
Is it not Rivers, you think?
I don't know if he's going. Like I don't know like how his schedule is with his high school commitments, but I would imagine that his locker mate and things like that would be presenting him. I don't know. It could be. I don't know if there are rules behind it. Like, does it have to be LT because LT is in the hall? Like, can it be somebody who's not in the hall? I've never actually known that.
Good question. I'm trying to remember now. If it is, it's probably LT because he's the one who told him he got in the Hall of Fame to begin with.
Yeah.
Good question. I actually don't know about that one. Rivers will be there. He'll probably tear up once, and I'll bawl my eyes out during the Hall of Fame game or during the ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love it for it to be Rivers, but I don't know. I think there are going to be a lot of former Chargers that go. I think it's going to be a good turnout for everybody. There were a lot that showed up when he was into the Ring of Honor for the Chargers last year. Like Jamal Williams was there, Rivers was there, LT was there. Merriman was there. Floyd came back. So there was a lot. Brendan says that Lorenzo Neal presented to LT. That sounds right. That was a few years ago. I don't remember specifically, but
yeah. Unless his son announces him.
Gates' son?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the one that's at Michigan State?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
Trey McKitty.
Trey McKitty. Is he still in the league? I don't even know.
He is.
Is he on the Bills?
It was the Bills. I don't know if he's still on the Bills, or is it the Browns? Bills or Browns? I'm pretty sure. Oh man,
he is with the Browns.
Why do I know that?
All right, let's get to some super chat questions and then we'll head out for today. Dark Samus kicking us off says, don't the coaches know Andre James is an upgrade?
No,
I don't know.
I guess
no, they don't think he is an upgrade.
Yeah.
But he's apparently having a good camp, so good for him, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know he's an upgrade. I can't even convince anyone that he's an upgrade, but I wish he at least were given the shot to show he was or wasn't.
2023 version of Andre James definitely was better than what Bozeman was last year. 2024 version was worse than Bozeman was last year. So it's a little more nuanced than just like he was better in 2023. Like it's not.
Right.
His next one in here wants to know if teams will regret passing on Mike Green. And then he says premium I assume premium pass rusher was next after
sure.
that.
Yeah. I think if the teams that passed on Mike Green did so for a reason that was beyond the on-field stuff, and while sure it might suck when the Ravens have Mike Green and he's very good and he's sacking your quarterback, but they won't regret it because they did it, I'm assuming, for the most part for personal reasons that had to do with the off-field stuff.
Yeah. I think teams will always justify passing on players when there's off-field stuff. I don't think they'll look at that and be like, man, like, what if, like, I forget who it was, but somebody was asked a similar question about like Tyreek Hill, and he was like, well, he didn't pass any of our character evals. So like, what are we supposed to do?
Right. Exactly. And it's not exactly sunshine and rainbows since then. Yeah.
Distinct TNT says his name is Noah. My brother and I are traveling to the game from Southern Indiana. Should be tons of fun. And he's wearing his new Navy Derwin jersey. The new Navy jerseys are so sick in person. Like they absolutely stand out, in a crowd. But I hope you have a great time. I've never been to the Hall of Fame game. I don't know if I ever will go, but everybody who does go says it's just like a different kind of aura about like being in Canton and like watching a football game. So hopefully you have a great time. Hopefully the Chargers have a good time as well.
That's pretty cool. I considered going because we were already in Virginia, so not too far, like, at least closer than California. But have fun. Honestly, have fun. Hope the jersey is good, brings you good luck. Going with your brother, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a cool moment for sure. I don't know if we get a ton of Indiana fans in here either, so shout out to Noah and Indiana representing.
Yeah, I don't know. My best man lives in Indiana, but he doesn't watch our football podcast.
Athir, right? Or not Athir. That's the other listener.
A seal.
Yeah,
not Athir. Yeah. Athir would be a good best man at my wedding, I think. He'd hype me up for sure. Sure.
Anthony says football with 2 lightning bolts.
Heck yeah, man.
Just excited to have any sport on. Like I watched like Wimbledon for the first time in my life this year because I just I needed some kind of sport. Like I'm not a tennis person at all. I've watched more baseball this summer than I have in the past, and like not that I'm super paying attention, but I'm just excited to have any kind of like actual sport on TV. No shade, but football is the best.
Yeah, I think the last sport I watched was the hot dog eating contest. So it'll be nice to have, like, football on
counts.
I think it counts. Yeah, true legend on our screens.
Yeah. Dark Samus with another question wants to know if Joe Alt or Slater were better prospects than Simmons was. Simmons, the Chiefs offensive tackle. Alt for sure. I didn't necessarily like grade Simmons strictly, but based off of like how I usually look at those things, I think Simmons versus Slater would have been like an actual conversation. Just because Simmons is such an athletic freak that I think that would be an interesting conversation. To me, he was, again, I didn't like sit down and watch 4 games of the tackles like I did all the other prospects, but I watched so much Ohio State that I watched Simmons play a lot. He would have been an easy like top 10 grade for me this year.
Dang. Yeah, I skipped them all together because of Joe Alt and because of Rashawn Slater. So I don't care about offensive tackle.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs really figured it out. And they have, like, he's just, okay, great. There's your blindside protector for the next 10 years, 15 years. Man, that's a bummer. And Brashard Smith apparently is catching passes and looking amazing at running back. She rises back. Just like they might go after some recently released players. So
I don't know, man. Just the Chiefs will be the Chiefs, man. Until Reed and Mahomes and all those guys are done, I'm kind of just penciling them in for a great year. But
it's crazy. The stat that Solak posted, I don't know if he got it from like his he sourced some from somebody else, but the 2 best teams the last 5 years, and by DVOA, which is the percent that you are better than the average team, were the Ravens and the Bills the last 5 years. Sorry, the best DVOA teams in a 5-year stretch of all time were the Ravens and the Bills the last 5 years, and they were like 26% better than the average team by DVOA, which is like crazy.
And they have nothing to show for it.
They have nothing to show for it because the Chiefs are just that. Like, I don't know. The Chargers are just cursed to grow up and have good like quarterbacks in eras where the AFC is just stupid ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, Rivers, we saw all that, and now the Chargers, as good as they can be, the greatest DVOA teams in a 5-year stretch, which was the last 5 years that Herbert's been their quarterback. Ugh.
Yeah, this version of the Chiefs feels like very like Spurs-esque, where like the regular season just does not matter.
Nope.
And you get to the playoffs and like no team knows how to play better in the playoffs than them. It's just so frustrating.
No, you just have to be a super team, like the Eagles, or a really barren team, as Eagles fans seem to think their team.
Yeah, had the most players ranked in the ESPN survey, but
Cooper DeJean, a top 60 player, by the way, in the NFL top 100.
Yep,
for some reason.
Colin Camps wants to know which UDFA we are most excited about. I think it's Nico Reed, but like I mentioned, Delavon Campbell has been making some plays too as well. So those two guys, in terms of the undrafted free agents, have definitely raised their game the most. We'll see about Rocket Sanders. He was the one that they paid the most money to, and he's been injured, so I don't know how much he's going to play tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Reed and Campbell are for sure the two guys that have kind of staked their claim the most.
Yeah, I liked, in terms of watching the players on tape, like Wax, Purchase, both those guys, I really liked watching. So I want to see what they can do.
Yeah, 100%. And then our last super chat in here from Michael Hoots. Apologies for if I said that wrong. He wants to know if Q has another bad year, what's the plan for 2026?
I guess it depends on what another bad year means. You know, if he has 800 yards this year, but still kind of the same inconsistencies, you're not cutting him. You know, I don't know if anyone's going to trade for him, but it also, the part of the answer is also, how does Tre Harris do? How does Keandre Lambert-Smith do?
Yeah.
But I assume, let's say one of those guys ends up being a long-term starter, whoever you want. Let's say, for me, I'll say Tre Harris. I think you still just go with the same three potentially next year, because it's not sexy, but they need a center and a guard and an edge rusher and a D tackle and a corner so, you know, if your third receiver is an 800-yard Quentin Johnston, that just might have to be what it is next year.
Yeah, bad year. Like, I don't know. I don't want to rehash all of the QJ stuff, and you and Alex did that as well. But the guy had 700 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. Like, I think we need to reframe his bad year, if that's what we're talking about. Like, no matter what, he's going to be on the roster. Like, if that's what you're asking, I don't see a world where he's not at least on the roster. Like, you know, worst case scenario here is that Tre Harris and Keandre Lambert, worst case scenario for him, I should say, is that Tre Harris and Keandre pass him, but then he's your fourth receiver. And I think he's still, you know, on the roster at that point. So I fully expect QJ to take another leap forward based off of what we've seen in practice so far. Does that mean he's automatically going to vault into this category where he justifies being a first round pick? Probably not. But I do think we will see him perform better than last year. And I think we will see him take another positive leap forward. So I would expect that to continue to happen, because that's what he has shown. But yeah, I think eventually we will get to a point where Tre Harris is their wide receiver too.
Yeah. I'm very curious what kind of season he needs to have for them to trigger a 5th-year option.
Yeah. Yeah.
If at all.
That's tricky. But I mean, if you didn't, because 5th-year option for receivers is like, that's like $20 million plus.
Yeah, I was trying to look. So unless he somehow gets a Pro Bowl this year. So playtime, 5th-year option might be the case for him. Well, Burks would have been 16.8, and he was pick 18. So more than that.
So that bumping up a couple of years, you know, salary wise, that's probably like maybe 18, 19.
Probably not.
And And if he hits like a Pro Bowl this year, which I don't think is going to happen, but if he gets to a Pro Bowl or something like that, then that increases. So
yeah, well, at least if he hits a Pro Bowl, you can exercise the option.
yeah, if he's a Pro Bowl wide receiver, you're definitely exercising the option.
I will do a handstand if he turns into a Pro Bowler. I will.
Yeah,
be so happy. I'm a little confused, but
I think we will see him improve, and I think we will see him play more confident this year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what the ceiling is, but I think he will be better this year.
Yeah.
Josh Halverson says, thanks for the recommendation of Prize Picks. I was able to turn the 1 year of college savings I had for my son into 1.1 years. You're very welcome. I'm glad to hear that you're putting Prize Picks money towards your kid's college fund. That's the most responsible way to do Prize Picks, I would say, that I've heard.
Yep. Now put all 1.1 years on the Hall of Fame game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Appreciate Josh, though. Always in here, when he can be. He's a very busy man, but yes, we appreciate the heck out of him.
Lifting my spirits. And Josh, if you're still here, what do you think of The Pit? Very curious what your thoughts are on that, because people seem to. It's an incredible show, but from a doctor's perspective, I'm very curious.
Yeah.
What he thinks.
All right. 1 hour and 20 minutes on a Hall of Fame game that hasn't happened yet. So definitely itching to talk about football. Can't wait to watch it tomorrow. Should be a ton of fun. Tyler, any final thoughts before we head out?
I've been flying for 9 hours. I'm going to bed.
Yes, I had a 6-hour drive today. I'm also going to bed. But we had to do it. We had to get back and pod together about the game tomorrow. So
yep,
it was a fun one for sure. All right, guys, appreciate the heck out of you for tuning in. Make sure like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff does continue to help grow the podcast. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. We'll see you tomorrow after the game. As always, bolt up.